Okay. All right. Again, I'm Tom Walker. I haven't changed. And I've been around long enough that most of you know me anyway. And it's going to be hard to follow Brad's presentation. I do hope that each and every one of you got a different perspective about Rotary and what we're doing with polio and what the possibilities are. And you probably heard a new phrase about the Rotary Foundation, Incubator of Dreams. So this morning, I would like to talk to you about the Rotary Foundation. Originally, the Zone 26 Endowment gentleman, Tom User, was going to make this presentation, but interestingly, he had to relocate from Southern California at this time of year to northern Minnesota. And so I have been asked to fill in for him as of the 1st of January. So we're going to talk a little bit about aspects of the Rotary Foundation and what talk about the Rotary Foundation would we have without a little bit of history. As we all know, that Rotary was founded by Paul Harris and several of his friends, and primarily it was for country folk that were in Chicago and missed that environment. So it was kind of a networking friendship sort of thing. And before long, Rotary started to become the Rotary that we're aware of today. We've always valued service. We've always had high ethical standards. For service, everybody knows our motto, service above self. High ethical standards. Those were encapsulated in 1932 in the 4-way test. We've always applied the ideal of service to every business and all sorts of activities. We develop acquaintances as an opportunity for service. We value the worthiness and dignity of all occupations. And maybe above all, we value understanding, goodwill, and international peace. And that has been part of our core since the beginning. So now, Jessica, we have the next one.
Okay, do you want the poll first?
Not yet. So
okay.
I'm going to give the question to give our audience who's keen on Rotary trivia a chance to think about it. So the question here that we will have in a poll in a minute is, what was the first project that put Rotary on the civic map of 1907 Chicago? And while they're thinking about that, let's go to the next one. Again, hearkening back to our beginnings, the Rotary Foundation came into being in 1917 at the Atlanta Convention. But really, the foundation that we're more familiar with started around 1947 with what became the annual fund. And that came when Paul Harris was ill, and he expressed his hope to his friends that instead of flowers, money might be sent to the foundation for furthering international understanding. So Rotary established a special fund for the contributions that flooded in as a result of Paul Harris's death and the news about that as it spread around the world. In just 18 months, the foundation received $1.3 million. In today's dollars, that would be $50.5 million. And the contributions continued to increase over the years, and they first topped $1 million in 1965. At the 1978 convention in Tokyo, Rotary announced a special 2-year 75th anniversary fund, which would receive more than $7.2 million. In 2004, the foundation started a program that we're familiar with here in District 5520 called Every Rotarian Every Year, or E-Ray, E-R-E-Y. which is a campaign to stimulate giving to the annual fund, which of course, among other things, supports foundation grants. Last year, that fund, the annual program fund, received $126.3 million. So now let's go to the next slide here. Okay. And all right, it's time for the poll.
Okay, everybody should see that now and can respond. So I can see still people responding. We're at 32.
Okay.
And don't shoot the pollster.
Oh, never. Never.
Get a bad rap these days.
Okay. All right. So what's the answer there, Jess? Holy smokes. If you said public toilets in Chicago, you're up for Rotary trivia. And that project, which by the way, is what we would call today a WASH project, which is water and sanitation and health, or in this case, public toilets, that was put in on the northeast corner of Washington and LaSalle streets there in Chicago. The head of the YMCA at that time there in Chicago expressed the prevailing sentiment when he said, the Rotary Club of Chicago has now shown reason for its existence. So now, since we're on a roll here, what was Rotary's second project? And there's another poll for you.
So I think everybody's got the hang of it now.
Okay. And the answer is?
With about 75% reporting.
Oh, well, a food bank would be a good choice, but in point of fact, it was a horse. It turns out that in those days, doctors actually made house calls. And since cars weren't all that readily available back then, the doctor needed a horse, so they bought him a horse. So I guess Rotary is into water and sanitation and public transportation. So at this point, let's see, let's move on to the next slide. And we have one more poll. And that poll is, what is a major gift?
Oh, people are having to think about this one.
Oh, good.
So we've got 75% that responded.
Okay. Okay. And if you said $10,000 as a future or current gift, you are up on that. In fact, that is exactly the right answer. Could we go to the next slide there? So the question then is, if I wanted to make a major gift, to what would I apply that? And some of the programs that we're familiar with is the annual fund, which half of the money comes back to us in 3 years, and we use that to fund our district grant program and get a portion of our global grant program and some other things. Of course, there's polio plus program, and Brad talked about that. Grant support, supporting a global grant, for instance, or directed gifts. And actually, a major gift can be directed either as a current gift or a future gift to any of these programs, to any program of the Rotary Foundation. That includes annual fund, polio, grant supports. You could give it to the endowment so that it grows and helps Rotary in the future, to one of the 6 now or soon to be 7 areas of focus. And the donor can choose to make these funds available right away as an current gift, or you can invest in the endowment to grow and provide long-term support for Rotary and its programs. And Rotary uses the term legacy giving to refer to gifts made to the endowment. And the gifts ensure that we have a strong future with a steady, predictable supply of funds for all of our programs. And right now, these are our areas of focus: clean water or WASH projects, literacy and education, fighting disease, and it's not just polio, as Brad mentioned, maternal and children's health, economic development, and of course, the peace programs. And as of July 1, there will be a 7th, and that is supporting the environment. And both the donor and the beneficiary receive hope, happiness, gratitude, joy, pride, and peace. So all of these things are possible as a result of our support of the various Rotary programs, and we certainly do value our donors in making those things. Okay, it's back to the future again, and we see where we were and what Arch Clump's vision for the foundation was way back when, in 1917, when the foundation came into being. He was president of the Rotary Club of Cleveland, as it turns out, in 1913, and he advocated at that point for a club to build a reserve that would ensure its means to do future good works. And he espoused that also as the 6th president of Rotary during his term in 1916-17, where he proposed it to the Atlanta Convention. In that speech in Atlanta, he said, "It seems eminently proper that we should accept endowments for the purpose of doing good in the world in charitable, educational, and other avenues of community service." And Arch's vision for the endowment would eventually become what we know today as the Rotary Foundation, and his call for doing good in the world became Rotary's motto of doing good in the world. So where are we going with the Rotary Foundation? Let's skip that one. There we go. So here's a catchy little thing. The trustees, a year or two back, came up with the idea of 2025 by 2025. And doesn't that just ring? And the idea is that by the year 2025, the endowment would have $2.025 billion in both net assets and commitments. And that would be $1 billion in net assets and another $1.025 billion in future commitments. And as you can see, where we are today is about $1.3 billion, with about 500 million in net assets and over 800 million in future commitments. And in a minute, we will discuss why that is important. 2025 by 2025. So let's say that you end up with the means and would like to make a gift to the endowment. So let's take a look what a $25,000 gift made to the endowment would mean. And that would generate roughly $1,000 in spending income every year. And of course, the gift of $25,000 never goes away. So here's a 20-year snapshot of an actual $25,000 gift made in 1996. First thing is, you notice over on the left is the initial gift of $25,000, and you see the dark blue ramp, and that is the spendable earnings. And notice that the spendable earnings does not start at zero. And that's because, unlike the share program, where the money that we give comes back to us in 3 years, the money from a endowment like this is available the very next year. So you don't have to wait 3 years, and you're immediately making a gift, and your gift is for $25,000 is going to generate about $1,000 for Rotary programs. And depending on how it's set up, part of that comes back to the district to fund whatever the donor is elected to do. The other nice thing about these endowments is that the Rotary Foundation is amenable in cases to actually allowing a phased funding of endowments, so it doesn't have to be done all at once. So in 2007-8, the endowment had spun off $7.5 million. 10 years later, it's $15.5 million, or double. And we anticipate by the 24-25, or the 25 or 2025 by 2025, we'll be generating $50 million in funds available for Rotarians to use. Now, let's put that $50 million in perspective. Let's go back. Let's go back. Okay, so last year, Rotary spent nearly $100 million on global grants. We spent nearly $40 million on district grants. We spent nearly $40 million on disaster relief. And by the way, District 5520 has a disaster response grant right now. We have lots of global grants. And we of course, like many districts, got our district grant, and that was for nearly $90,000 this year. So $50 million would allow a good, solid baseline for us to fund programs that we are well aware of, and also to make allowances for programs which may come in the future. So let's see here in the next slide how Rotary breaks things down. The goal for last year, and it's very nearly the same for this year, is 400 million. Actually, it's a little more than 400 million this year. So let's take a look at the goal versus for last year. Well, they expected $140 million for annual giving. We ended up with 126, which is still very good, but and they expected about 75 million of cash and expectancies from the endowment fund. We actually overachieved there. As you notice, 150 million for polio every year. That's 50 million from Rotarians, and then the 2-to-1 match from the Gates Foundation, and then there's other. So we actually hit 410 million last year. So those are the broad areas in which people contribute to the Rotary Foundation. And interesting thing is on major gifts and so forth, a large number of them go straight into the annual fund. And I believe this year we've had a couple major gifts, and that has been the case, I think. So that is kind of what we're giving. And so if we were able to put $50 million on the table, regardless of what the markets do and so forth, that is going to make a significant difference in how we can evenly fund our programs going forward. Okay. So how would you how would you go about doing that? Well, it's actually fairly simple. There's a thing called a legacy commitment notification card, and you can do an outright commitment, and that will count toward major donor, which is at least $10,000 in Arts Club Society recognition. And it gives you a glimpse toward your legacy future and its impact on Rotary, and allows Rotary to recognize you and your family and your Rotary friends appropriately. And by the way, Governor Linda is going to be talking more about the recognitions in her portion of the presentation. And you can also include a future commitment to the Rotary Foundation in your will or estate plan that ensures that your charitable goals will be fulfilled in future years to come. Let's go back.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and committing is a fixed amount of or a percentage of your assets in your estate. Ensures your resources actually go where you want them to go, and after you're no longer there to need them. And for a future commitment of $10,000 or more, the trustees award the Bequest Society membership, and both the Bequest Society and Major Donor and Arts Club Society gets you special recognition from the foundation, invitation to events. For instance, Bequest Society members and Arts Club Society Major Donors are invited to several virtual events at our Zone Institute next week. Normally, they're invited to special events at Rotary International and so forth. And there's a special crystal that is available and an exclusive pin. And again, Governor Linda will talk about the pins and how to read pins. That's science all its own. And
Thank you.
well, it is. It's trying to figure it out. And what I can tell you is every diamond that you end up purchasing is the most expensive diamond you've ever bought, but it goes to the right spot. So that's it. So the next slide, I think, talks about IRAs. Yes, you can use your IRA, and I would point out before we continue that the CARE Act enacted earlier this year as part of the COVID response allows a couple interesting things. One, as I recall, you're not allowed, or not required to take your minimum distribution this year. And a second thing is that you can contribute to charitable efforts 100% of your AGI. As always on these sorts of things, please contact your financial advisor or accountant before you do anything. But those are some options that are available this year. And one of the things that comes up sometimes, depending on how you do your estate planning, is if it's possible that the estate tax will get you, and your heirs will also have to pay income on that. So by giving straight out of your retirement plan to the Rotary Foundation is going to bypass some of that stuff. So again, a donation, it's going to make you eligible for Major Donor or Arts Club Society membership. And remember, you don't have to give, $1 million or anything. It's what's available, and it's going to a good place. Next thing is life income agreements, and Rotary has several of these. One of them is a charitable gift annuity, and that's for people who are 50 plus. And it's possible to take low yielding assets and turn them into a regular income stream. Basically, you would commit a minimum of $10,000 in cash or appreciated securities to Rotary in exchange for Rotary's agreement to make fixed payments to you or your loved ones for life. And the payments are backed by the unrestricted access assets of the foundation and will not fluctuate with changes in the market. They typically yield 4 to 9%, depending on the age when your annuity is funded. And you can opt to defer payments to get a higher deduction and a higher rate of payment when you actually start taking the payments. So again, all of these agreements basically, once you're done with the money, the rest of the money goes to Rotary to fund its programs. And you're saying, okay, this sounds really weird. Are there people out there to help me? And these are some of the people that are here right now to help. Right now, I have 3 Rotary staffers listed. Eric Thompson works out of Evanston. He supports us here in the Rocky Mountains. And there are 3 other ones. One, James Sewell in the Oakland area is supporting us. Elizabeth Anderson from in the Northwest, she actually lives there. And Beth Garrow supports California, the rest of the Southwest, and Hawaii. And then there's these other 2 people up there. Win Speller covers Zone 27. That's the northern part of our combined zones. And as of January, I will cover the area from Midland, Texas to Honolulu. So I think all of you by this time probably know how to get a hold of me. And again, we work very closely together to make sure that we are providing solutions to issues that you might have and are responsive to your desires. Okay. One thing I do want to show you is a major source of resources is the Zone 2627 website. And Jess, can you take us there? We will not go to the other one today because the Rotary website is being maintained and I'm not sure it's working. So the very, back up a little bit there. There you go. The very top one is the Foundation Resource Guide. And for those of you that have been on these Zoom sessions before, you know it, I always point that out. That is 16 or 18 pages of every fact, every document, every personal contact information that is going to be of help to you dealing with anything having to do with the Rotary Foundation. So I would bookmark that one. But if you slide down there a little bit, you'll see endowments and major gifts and plain giving. And I wanted to point that one out to you. There are lots of forms in there. There is a thing called a club and district legacy giving. And remember, legacy giving is giving to the foundation or to the endowment fund. So these are two very good places to go. Or if you just have questions, give me a call. Okay, let's see the next one. So what's the plan on major gifts? It turns out for the past several years, a significant part of the district's giving has come from major gifts, and some of them are rather sizable. And they benefit our district, its programs, and without those major gifts, our district grant program wouldn't be what it is, and we certainly wouldn't have as much money to match our global grants as we do. So, so our plan is to raise awareness in presentations like this. And again, Eric and I are available to talk to your club or individuals in your club that would be interested. The second thing is when we enter into conversation, it's personal. And again, this is not a broadcast of the known universe. It's between you and us, and it is our goal to answer your questions and provide solutions that will work with what your goals and vision of your foundation participation is. And lastly, great stewardship. Not only is Rotary going to take care of your money and make sure it gets where it's supposed to and does what it's supposed to, but we really do thank all of our donors, and you don't have to be $1 million donor to be thanked. We appreciate any gift regardless, and we will take care of you and recognize you for that. Okay, next. And that legacy toolkit that's available at rotary.org/legacy has this kind of information in it, and that's also available on the zone website. And we just wanted to show you the kind of stuff that's in there. Rotary is a 4-star charity in the United States. And for roughly 15 years in a row, Rotary has been rated that way by Charity Navigator, which is the most prestigious independent evaluator of nonprofits in the United States. And it's in the top 1% of US-based charities because we have good governance, best practices exercised, and we execute our mission in a financially responsible way. In 2016, the Association of Fundraisers rated us the world's outstanding foundation. And of course, the Rotary Foundation is getting a lot of press in the media about polio eradication and so forth. Next slide. And the question that frequently comes up is that, what's your overhead? 91% of the money that we raise goes directly to our programs. So that is very respectable. And lastly, just before we close, we would like to thank you. So lastly, harkening back to our beginning again, Arch Clump said, Rotary's tomorrow depends on what we do today. What's your Rotary legacy going to be? Thank you.